So, hello and welcome everybody to another Sacred Wisdom podcast. In this podcast today, we are going to discuss the incredible and amazing Three Eye Atlas. And we still, you might have seen the other videos we've done on the channel on it previously, but we still haven't got the update from NASA completely or the full picture. We've been given sort of half truths as always. I am joined with the amazing Stephen Denman today, as always, and the incredible brother on the Sacred Wisdom podcast. How are you doing, Mr. Denman?
I'm doing very well. You're a wonderful brother, Zach. You're great. You're very creative as well and entrepreneurial and all that. So yeah, I'm doing well. I know you're very busy. So
Well, Steve, we've had some major updates, and it's very difficult and very foggy, the information around Three Eye Atlas, because there's so much sensationalism and people putting up AI spaceships and stuff like this. What is actually real and what isn't? And then you've obviously now got the mainstream going into it, and it's going to create a whole other perspective of it and a mishmash of what this actually is. So, Steve, we've spoken previously about Three Eye Atlas. Do you want to give a quick summary to where we're at now with Three Eye Atlas, and maybe just quickly kind
yeah,
of briefly
I think it's good
summarize?
to go. So previously we discussed the idea that Free Eye Atlas was possibly an interstellar vessel, some kind of starship based on the Future Forecasting Group, and their work specifically under the supervision of the founder of the Future Forecasting Group, Richard Algire. And there's been many remote viewing sessions done, but in terms of the more conventional aspects of data from Western science, I think it's important to give perhaps the timeline of the various anomalies up to the very present moment of now of what's going on with C2025 N1 Atlas, as it's known more commonly, and that is Three Eye Atlas. So the WOW signal was detected on the 15th of August 1977. It was a strong narrowband radio signal that was detected at Ohio State University Radio Observatory, the OSURO, also known as the Big Ear Radio Telescope. And that was part of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, or SETI, by the Department of Astronomy at Ohio State University. Its origin was inferred to be from some kind of civilization that could have been extraterrestrial, or a grouping of extraterrestrials, or some kind of civilization that might exist out there, because it seemed such a equated oscillating signal that had been returned. So the latest natural explanation to do with our Three Eye Atlas is that when it comes to the WOW signal, and it's only been hypothesized, was that it was a sudden brightening of the hydrogen line emitted from an interstellar cloud, and this was triggered by a very intense and transient radio source, such as a plasmic bright star. WOW signal originated from the sky coordinates of right ascension of 19 hours and 25 minutes, which is 291 degrees, and a declination that's minus 27 degrees. In other words, what I'm saying is they had precise coordinates of the origination of that WOW signal on the 15th of August 1977. So bringing it more up to date now, that Three Eye Atlas entered into the solar system and accelerated up to around 130,000 miles per hour, which is around 210,000 kilometers an hour, which is extremely fast compared to standard comets or comets with tails. That's another situation we'll come on to later on in this. So obviously I've mentioned the situation or what happened on the WOW signal. We're not going to go into the depth of that, but what it is being purported that those coordinates are connected to a Pacific location, and possibly that Three Eye Atlas originated and traveled from Ross 154 or V1216 SGR in the Sagittarius constellation, and it's known that Ross 154 or V1216 SGR is a UV SETI type flare star and is around 9.589 light years from planet Earth and therefore the solar system. On the 21st of July 2025, the anti-tail, or perhaps the retro thrusters, but that could be a conspiracy theory, from Three Eye Atlas were observed by the Hubble Space Telescope, the HST, pointing directly towards our yellow dwarf star or G2 star called the Sun. Well, obviously a tail is behind a comet if it's a comet. So that aside, on the 23rd of July 2025, the pure nickel emissions content of 3i Atlas were discovered by the doctorate student Rohan Rohat Gawankar at the Instituto de Astrofísica Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile and the assistant professor of physics and astronomy, Darrell Zachary Seligman at Michigan State University in the United States of America. They used a very large telescope, the VLT, in the Cerro Paranal Mountains in the Talta commune of the Antofagasta region in the Atacama Desert of northern Chile to detect the nickel emissions of 3i Atlas. Now, these nickel emissions are significant because the metal was detected at an immense distance from our yellow dwarf star or GT star, the sun, where temperatures are far too cold in that part of the interstellar expanse of space for nickel to actually vaporize. This suggests that 3i Atlas perhaps has some kind of mechanically induced heat source in its core structure. Again, that could be seen as a conspiracy theory. So it's
just
allegedly
to summarize,
or supposedly.
So just to summarize, you're saying that, so basically this comet that we've been told is a comet, it's not a comet. Let's just forget about that it's got no tail whatsoever. So it's come around the sun.
Yeah, an anti-tail. Yeah, well, this is before it. These dates are before it actually got to perihelion, which is the closest approach to the sun.
Okay, so let's bring it up
the
to that
anti-tail was there.
Okay, so let's bring it up to there. So we got to perihelion, all right? So that's what we want to get to. Right. That's bringing it up to now. So that's the summary of where we've got to now. And in the last week, I believe, perihelion, is it called? Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the date of the perihelion of 3i Atlas was the 29th of October 2025. Now, C2025 M1 Atlas or 3i Atlas did not disintegrate at perihelion or leave the solar system after reaching perihelion, and therefore is not speeding towards the Gemini constellation, as some individuals in the mainstream media had said, all names withheld. And it so that's again a sign that it cannot just be a mixture of compacted frozen carbon dioxide and rocky substances.
So where people understand that when a comet goes around the sun, what's meant to happen is the heat from the sun is evaporate some of the minerals on side that comet. So it should show up like a big heat source, shouldn't it? It should show the tail very clearly, right?
It should. Well, that's from the evaporation that takes place of all the carbon dioxide. There's obviously a small amount of dihydrogen oxide or obviously water, H2O, and obviously the rocky, various mineral-based rocky substances. It should start to disintegrate. None of that's taken place. So, and it hasn't left the solar system. So it structure. Again, that suggests that there's some kind of adaptation or something has gone on there. We don't know what it is. We're not going to say it's an interstellar vessel or spaceship, though. So we just have to wait and see.
Well, the feeling is that from the way all this information is being held back from the public, it would suggest that there is something of this object is something greater, and what is the big what is going on. And I know NASA, I know NASA have explained things and don't explain things correctly, never a straight answer, but there is some factual stuff that NASA have done, like there is bits and pieces. They do send probes out.
The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, as a civilian space agency, has a fantastic linear record of scientific discoveries. I mean, it has done a huge amount of highly beneficial technical research out there, within the solar system. But
it's also put the cap on certain subjects. It's also put the lid on certain subjects. And that's what we're getting at. There is in our reality, we live on planet Earth. We both believe there are extraterrestrials, but we believe this is something much more than that. And obviously, with UFOs and spacecraft that pass through our reality, they warp in space time, so they're moving in a very different way. But the interesting thing about this object, which has fascinated me, is that it's moving through space at such a high speed. and not many spacecraft.
Yeah, that is correct.
Comets, we're told, no, we get out of that one. Whatever it is moving very fast.
So we're coming on to the whole situation also with C 2025 V1 Borisov, which was sighted on the 2nd of November 2025 alongside 3i Atlas. So it appeared and was moving at a very similar velocity now alongside 3i Atlas across millions of miles or millions of kilometers of the interstellar expanse or open space. And nobody has really explained what that situation was. It was then reported in the mainstream media that C 2025 V1 Borisov had suddenly vanished, or had it teleported, or had it shifted its the vibrational rate of its molecular structure. I mean, I'm just putting that out there as a suggestion. I'm not saying that is obviously factual.
It's very hard to be factual on any of this subject because we're down here
considered as something we need to look at and question. So basically, C 2025 V1 Borisov was spotted on the 2nd of November 2025 by the Russian astronomer Gennady Vladimirovich Borosov using his self-built HGB 650 0.65 meter telescope from his mobile astronomical robotics genome observatory, or MARGO is the acronym, at his residency in Naushny in the Bakhchusaray Rayon, which is in the Crimean Republic of southwestern Russia, sometimes known as Central Russia. Now, Gennady Vladimirovich Borisov was employed, or is still employed, as a technician at the Crimean Astronomical Station, or CAS, of the Sternberg Astronomical Institute at Moscow State University, or MSU.
Right.
So that's interesting. He's got a credible narrative in terms of his employment, his skills base, and his expertise. Apparently he is also employed, which is a joint stock company, or JSC, to manufacture experimental telescopic equipment in collaboration with the State Corporation for Space Activities, the SCSA, which is basically the Russian Space Agency and therefore part of the Russian Federation.
So what we've had, and thank you, Stephen, for all the factual information. There's loads more as well we're going to go on to, but we're just going to have a general discussion about it. But Steve, understanding generally what it is, that I think there's been 15, 16 anomalies on the actual this object as it's passing through. So there's a lot of questions around it, and obviously the biggest one of all is that obviously it's not producing a tell, in a way. So, and obviously there's the way it's changed shape as well. I've heard that as well. And obviously we go on to the fact that NASA haven't produced the images, and they also as well now going on to mainstream TV as well in this way. So it's what I'd like to say to everybody. First of all, this is not Project Bluebeam. All right, so this is not, and I don't know that for sure, but that's from what I can see.
It's nothing to do with Project Bluebeam at all. No,
and it doesn't feel like that, and it feels like there is something that is coming to question our science, to question our reality, and they're not necessarily here for that, as people are saying. Some new age woo-woo stuff, so people saying they've come to save us and they're going to get all the light seeds off the planet and rescue them. It's so ridiculous, but it's come into our consciousness, into our reality, for us to I feel, and Stephen feels the same, I think, that we are to question our science and question this reality that we have and all the dysfunctionalities that are going on at the moment, and I think go on, Steve, sorry.
So I would say that if we just continue for the timelines, what we're saying. So this is the next. I'll start the next update now. So on the 4th of November 2025, 3i Atlas turned a very intense luminescent bluish color, suggesting it has the potency or the ability to withstand extremely high temperatures when it approaches a solar mass such as our yellow dwarf star or G2 star, the sun. Now, we know that on the 5th of November 2025, 3i Atlas actually changed its direction and velocity after perihelion, which was around the 29th of October 2025, and using what are known as non-gravitational forces. These can be technologically or mechanically induced, suggesting that perhaps C2025 N1 Atlas or 3i Atlas has been artificially adapted or perhaps modified. Perhaps it is some kind of interstellar space probe. Again, that's just being put out there as a suggestion. We don't know, but it certainly is not an asteroid of any kind. We obviously don't need to mention that it's not a comet. It's obviously not a comet. It went past perihelion. It didn't evaporate, disintegrate. There was no huge cometary tail, no therefore evaporation of condensed or compacted CO2, so carbon dioxide that is, and various mineralized rocky substances. So again, a lot of disinformation and a lot of fake predictions were going on approaching the date of perihelion for the 29th of October 2025 by many individuals in the mainstream who got it terribly wrong. We know that on the 11th of November 2025, 3i Atlas was seen by the Nordic Optical Telescope, the NOT, at the Roque de la Muchachos Observatory, or on La Palma in the northwestern Canary Islands of Micronesia. Now, 3i Atlas was shown not to have disintegrated post-Perihelion, which it closest approach to the Sun on the 29th of October 2025, during that observation with the Nordic Optical Telescope at NOT on the 11th of November 2025, and it still had no cometary tail once it obviously came around the Sun and came back towards, back into the solar system. So it is also still intensely luminescent and photonically reflective, which means that there's obviously some kind of possible geometric structure to it that is highly reflective to solar radiation and therefore sunlight. And it seemed to display a very specific kind of geometric outline in certain photographs that have been taken. So coming on to just briefly what you said about the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, not once has Sean Patrick Duffy, who is the director of NASA, or Joseph Ashbacher, the Director General of the European Space Agency, or the ESA, made any statements about the 3i Atlas situation. Everybody just keeps parroting on and saying, yes, it's a comet, it's a comet. You've got the commentator from obviously the British Broadcasting Corporation, or the BBC, Professor Brian Cox, who continually is going on about it being a comet.
Yeah, and he is a science commentator, people. He is actually qualified in these subjects. When you take someone like Avi Loeb, I thought was really gross about that situation is that Avi Loeb, who's the Harvard professor, he sent an email to NASA, a tweet or an email, and didn't get any reply. But the Kardashians sent a tweet to NASA about it, and they get a reply. And I mean, come on, you can't make this stuff up. This is serious stuff. And I know NASA have manipulated information, but at a point we're at in reality and what's going on this planet and what we've been told that could happen, all these scenarios, it's pretty intense. Like
it is.
We should be getting told.
It is. But it's not just the National Aeronautics and Space Administration or NASA that have kind of really been deflecting away from, presenting to the American people and, the citizens of the Dominion of Canada or the various nation states of the European Union or the or anywhere else, United Kingdom, as to what's really going on. You would expect that from NASA, but it hasn't happened. We know also the Japanese-American theoretical physicist Michio Kaku has been continually contradicting his own statements. First, it's possibly a comet, then and it's not. It's almost as somebody's been, like some invisible agent has been prompting him behind the scenes to change his opinion almost.
It is a comet. It isn't a comet. Here's $100,000. It is a comet. That's what it is.
Yeah, it gets to that feeling. And what you said about the Israeli-American theoretical physicist known as Abraham Loeb, is more commonly known as Avi Loeb. He is from the Department of Astronomy in the Center for Astrophysics at Harvard University today. And he actually did mention on the 14th of November 2025 that the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, is expected to release the HD images that are actually taken with a 0.3 meter per pixel or 1 foot per pixel rate for 3i Atlas from the high resolution imaging science experiment or high rise camera that's on board the Mars Reconnaissance or MRO that was put into orbit around the planet Mars. They're expected to be released in the next 4 to 5 days. Now, obviously, he said that on the 14th of November, 2025. So perhaps by the 18th of November, 2025, or the 19th of November, 2025, perhaps we're going to see the release of these HD quality images of 3i Atlas from the high resolution imaging science experiment or high rise camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter or MRO, and they will show a much more detailed or specific level of contouring, and it may indicate there's a geometric structure there, and obviously it's not a comet and it's not an asteroid. So
well, my feeling is that is what it is, and it is some sort of geometric object that can't be explained. And maybe that is a craft. Maybe that NASA, maybe they don't know, and maybe they're concerned. But holding it back from the public is creating huge amount of problems.
A huge amount of speculation, which is why you've got all this AI enhanced silly photographs and CGI sort of produced photographs, and all they're doing is muddying and blurring everything and making it into a huge conspiracy theory. So the details we need, the actual data that we need, because the scientific aspects of this are very important.
Yeah, definitely.
I've studied the subject of unidentified flying objects or UFOs, also known as unidentified aerial phenomena or UAPs, for the best part of well over sort of 40 plus years, going back to really around 1980, 81, 82, 1983. And so but I'm not jumping to conclusions thinking it's some sort of vast interstellar spaceship or sort of, some kind of whatever spaceship that's out there traveling in. Perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. You've got to be non-emotive and you've got to be logical when it comes to studying the data.
Yeah.
And getting it right, because again, what the National Aeronautics and Space Administration or NASA hasn't done, is actually gone out there and actually said, right, we can take the lead on this. Let's actually supervise and coordinate this. But of course, Sean Patrick Duffy, the director of NASA, hasn't done that, and neither is Joseph Ashbacher, the Director General of the European Space Agency or the ESA, done that. And really, they should have been doing that. And, in terms of safeguarding Homo sapiens or human beings here on planet Earth, in terms of near Earth objects or NEOs, really there needs to be a lot more public awareness of what's going on, and that should be through educational programs in schools, colleges and universities to do with near Earth objects or NEOs, to do with what is going on in our solar system, and even the whole subject of UFO studies. Well, there's a lot of
yeah, I know, Steve, I strongly believe that this object is really questioning a lot of our energy systems on this planet. And I think that's the biggest one, and they are afraid of, and the powers that be, that actually they will lose grip of that kind of power over energy. And 3i Atlas is a symbol of that, and it's something that actually is unknown to them, or maybe they did know about it and they're just trying to arrogantly ignore it and try and just pretend it's not there and it's just going to pass by.
But it's nothing new, is it? Because if we go back to petroglyphs on rocks and in cavernous openings, say in parts of mainland Europe or North America, going back to the Upper Paleolithic or the Neolithic period, you see what appears to be extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials with some sort of astronaut suit on, with beams of light radiating from them. You can see disc-shaped etchings or petroglyphs, and circular shaped objects or whatever they are, or structures with radiance coming, some kind of luminosity. That was the only way that sort of made, shall we say, early modern humans actually could, or shall we say earthlings could, describe what they were seeing in the skies above. Yeah. And so I don't think it's anything new. I think it's just that the elites, the secret societies or policymakers have got used to a third-party debt-usury system, the monetary system, the banking system, the financial system. And it's as though that's got such rigidity that it can still be there in the next 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 years. We're looking at if that is an interstellar vessel or spacecraft, perhaps it's been traveling for more than maybe 500,000 years through interstellar space from star system to star system in the Milky Way galaxy, perhaps also the Sagittarius dwarf spheroidal galaxy. Did it really originate? Who knows? Maybe it did originate from Ross 154.
Maybe it did.
This constellation, we don't know, but there's all this theorizing, conceptualizing going on about 3i Atlas at the moment. We'll have to wait and see.
What I find so intriguing about it is all these science channels on YouTube, and they're just trying to put it down immediately as a comet, and they're so quick to go to that because they know that if it was a spaceship or if it was some other type of object, that their channels will probably be debunked. That actually there's so many.
So look at the British Broadcasting Corporation or the BBC. So they did a documentary called Walking with Dinosaurs. So within that documentary, somehow the researchers were able to figure out the actual texture of the skin of the dinosaurs, the pigmentation in the color of the skin, and the sound, the vocal and intonation patterns they used. All were in that documentary. Of course, how would they actually know? Of course, they didn't know that because they just basically made it up.
Yeah.
So, and then they try and make out they are some kind of, incredibly profound, grouping of experts, such as the
providing
BBC
knowledge to humanity.
Like Professor Brian Cox, who hasn't actually done any research papers, as opposed to obviously the actual the individual that we've just discussed from Harvard University. Avi Loeb, the Israeli-American theoretical physicist, who's done a number of papers. And I would like just to add to that basis, you are aware that Avi Loeb also, he wrote obviously 2 books. You are aware of that, aren't you, Zach?
Yeah, see, I've known he's wrote, not on this subject though. He's wrote them on comments. I haven't actually read them.
No, I mean, both books are to do with the idea of extraterrestrial civilization or some kind of life forms out there. So the first book he published was called Extraterrestrial, the First Sign of Intelligent Life Beyond Earth. And that was published on the 26th of January, 2021. And his second book was called Interstellar, The Search for Extraterrestrial Life and Our Future in the Stars, which Avi Loeb had published on the 29th of August, 2023.
So that must have been after Borisov and Oumuamua. So after that, he at the 219, he must have been inspired by that.
Yeah, so you had Oumuamua, which is believed to have been an interstellar probe. I'm not going to go into the data schematics, but they're too mathematically perfect. Its tumble rate, its spin rate, and it accelerated as it got nearer to our yellow dwarf star or G2 star, the sun, and maintained exactly the same velocity on its journey back out. So that doesn't make any sense in terms of the random tumbling of a comet that just meanders into the solar system. Again, we don't want to go too much into that.
I just want to say about Avi Loeb, because a lot of people have mentioned and saying that he is some sort of, again, misinformation, diversion. He always appears on all the mainstream channels when anything space, alternative space happens. But I believe, from what I've seen of him and from what I've heard and what channels he's been on, that he is very genuine. He's not creating misinformation. I think the people and organizations around him are creating that misinformation and making him look like that a bit as well. And there's people putting him in boxes. So I think you have to be really careful, and obviously don't look at anyone, even us alone, and look at your own information, look at your own research, look into this. Stephen, there's some channels as well that you've looked into, and you can mention them. Let's bring them in just so people have a bit of reference and information they can look at.
I really think individuals need to go and look at the YouTube channel of the British astrophotographer and stargazer known as John Leonard Wolson. And he has his own YouTube channel. His name again is John Leonard Wolson. He's here in the United Kingdom. He does excellent photographic analysis on what appears to be stars or other various, shall we say, celestial bodies that then on closer analysis appear to be vast interstellar spaceships or battle cruisers or whatever they are, space-sparing vessels of some type or design or geometric structure or another. And he's also done a lot of photographic analysis on 3i Atlas. And I will say this, a lot of the actual credible photographic evidence to do with 3i Atlas has, it appears there is a large number of, shall we say, spaceships or interstellar vehicles or whatever they are. It's not just 3i Atlas that's out there in the solar system.
That's a whole other. I think we'll go and do a whole episode on that, because there is other objects that are appearing. There isn't just this one. And we need to wake up a bit on this planet. We've been very indoctrinated by all the films, television series. This is outside of us. This is all a fantasy. It's not a fantasy. It is very possible that we, in our lifetime, and it's happened before, as Stephen said, that we would have a visit from a type of extraterrestrial. And of course, and Stephen agrees that there are already extraterrestrials, I believe, as well on this planet. But this is another intelligence altogether, way, way beyond what we even could conceive. And that could be very interesting. Possibly.
Well, we'll have to see what happens through, the remainder of 2025, and then from the 1st of January, 2026 to the 31st of December 2026 and beyond, with what's going on with 3i Atlas and other various celestial bodies and whatever's going on out there in the solar system is becoming increasingly fascinating. We have to remember one thing with, the Israeli-American theoretical physicist Abraham Loeb, or Avi Loeb. He also founded what is called, on the 16th of July 2021, the Galileo Project for the systematic scientific search for evidence of extraterrestrial technological artifacts. It's quite a long name. So he founded the Galileo Project for the systematic scientific search for evidence of extraterrestrial technological artifacts, that has the acronym of GPSSSEETA. Okay. Now, when he founded that on the 16th of July 2021, that shows the motivations of Avi Loeb towards the idea of extraterrestrial and perhaps even ultra-terrestrial presences in our solar system and beyond the Great Oort Cloud in the outer solar system, to what's going on with places like Alpha Centauri or Proxima Centauri and other, localized stellar masses that aren't, therefore too far away from our solar system. So,
amazing, Stephen. That's pretty brilliant. And we are going to do a lot more on 3i Atlas and do updates as well. Any new information that we come across and Stephen looks into, or things are coming up, because there is a lot popping up at the moment. We will always, our integrity will, and our means to this channel and what we say is always truthful as we can be. We will not provide misinformation, and we will always say it's speculative if that's the case. All right. So, you can't do this. This is and please, anybody watching in alternative media and any of these things, really, 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 you've got to be more responsible. You've got to understand that sometimes your theories, they're not a reality, and you're putting that out to an audience, and you must be responsible about that information. You have to be very careful. So, and this is very important. We believe and
all these AI enhanced silly facial expressions they're putting on, to credible quantum physicists or theoretical physicists or whoever, or geophysicists, astrophysicists, on their thumbnails, on their videos, look ridiculous, and it adds to this sort of, it's quite immature, and it's all just because they want the view, but all they're doing is blurring and complicating. It's quite a serious subject. It's an exciting subject.
It is.
But if theoretically 3i Atlas, conceptually 3i Atlas is an interstellar vehicle, and other interstellar vehicles come into this solar system in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months, 15 months, 18 months on, it will change everything here on planet Earth. It will eventually change our whole third-party debt-usury banking system, the monetary system, and everything we understand with our own sort of modern technology is going to change. We could go into a whole new paradigm when it comes to the new space age. And
I feel that. I feel, Steve, I think you're right,
We,
and I think we are. No, and this could be it. Who knows? But
who
we
knows? We
are
have
going
to
to go
wait and
into
see.
that age. We are going to go into that like beautiful space age. One in our, I maybe in our lifetime, maybe we'll see that. But there we have to reconnect our planet to this grid, this space, and we've become so isolated as in on planet Earth from. Well,
It's,
Steve, I thank you for all your information. It's brilliant, and
it's all right.
I really feel very excited about this, but also as well, what is concerning is not the object up there; it's the way humans act
That's right.
towards that, seeing something like that. We have to remain open and keep our eyes kind of perception open to other possibilities because the reality we're in has been so programmed and molded and consolidated into someone else's form and a perspective of what this world is, and it's so much more than what we are. Science, history, all these things have limited us, and that we have
Mm.
to break through that and we have to go forward. It's the only way for humanity to go. I mean, humanity is not in a good way at the moment on this planet, and we've become so bogged down in these the monetary system and debt and these things that are constructs that are outside of us. But
Mm.
Stephen, thank you, my brother. It's been brilliant, and please subscribe if
That's
you
right.
haven't. You can also join the members section where we have exclusive content and bits and pieces. We're gonna, as I said, doing a lot more on Free Eye Atlas. That'll all be coming up in the next few weeks. But for now, it's a bye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.